Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, famed Hollywood actor and director Robert Reiner and his wife Michele stabbed to death in their home, and their son has been arrested for murder.
Chilling new details. Nick Reiner now in custody in connection with the murder of his parents, being held without bail, as we're learning new details about the scene inside the house and the person who discovered the bodies of Rob Reiner and his wife Michele.
Plus, Rob Reiner's Hollywood influence with massive hit movies like This Is Spinal Tap, When Harry Met Sally, and A Few Good Men.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
The Brown University mass shooter still on the run tonight. The new surveillance images of a person of interest just released, and what we're learning about the students who lost their lives. ABC News Live has the latest from Providence, Rhode Island.
It's December. I think the only thing students should be worrying about is finals. We shouldn't have to stress about, are we in danger if our friends are still alive.
In Australia, dramatic video shows the moments an unarmed bystander tackles one of the gunmen in a targeted attack on the first night of Hanukkah. At least 15 people were killed in the shooting. What we know about the suspects and that incredible hero. It's the next chapter of the blockbuster Avatar franchise. Avatar Fire and Ash brings new family dynamics, a new fight, and new foes. We travel to Paris for the movie's European premiere to talk to James Cameron and the cast about bringing Pandora to life. How do you balance the large-scale world building with the intimate family storytelling?
That is a tricky problem as a filmmaker. And I'm actually really proud of this film for the intimacy juxtaposed with the big spectacle, the big adventure and all that.
And what's old is new again. The NFL stars who came out of retirement and went right back to making plays.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We're following several major stories this Monday night. We'll have the latest developments from Brown University, the scene of a deadly mass shooting in a moment, including new photos of a person of interest. And we'll go to Australia for more on that country's worst mass shooting in decades and speak with a rabbi whose parents helped treat survivors just feet away from the beach. But first, we do begin here at home with breaking news and the horrific murders of famed Hollywood actor-director Rob Reiner and his wife Michele. Police say the couple was found stabbed to death inside their home. Their son, Nick, is now under arrest, charged with their murders. The chilling case unfolding over the last 24 hours. Police were called to the home in Brentwood, Los Angeles on Sunday. Hollywood is reeling from their deaths. Police have released few details about the crime scene. Our station KBC reports their daughter was the one who found them. Nick Reiner was taken into custody overnight. His troubles over the years well documented, including his battle with drug addiction. And we're learning about an argument the father and son had just this weekend. Rob Reiner is known to generations of audiences, beginning with the TV classic All in the Family. A vocal political activist, his impact on Hollywood and beyond is undeniable. We'll get into all of it tonight on Prime, but we begin with Trevor Ault, who leads us off from Los Angeles. Hi, Trevor.
Linsey, this was a stunning development in a pretty heinous case, what appears to have been a grisly double murder. Rob Reiner, his wife Michele, both found dead here at their home. And the Los Angeles Police Department now believes that their son, Nick Reiner, their 32-year-old son, is responsible for their killings.
Tonight, the horrifying double murder in Los Angeles. Iconic filmmaker Rob Reiner and his wife Michele both killed. Their son, Nick, now suspected in their murders. Sources tell ABC News the couple's daughter found them Sunday stabbed to death inside their Los Angeles home. Police soon on scene.
They worked throughout the night on this case and were able to take into custody Nick Reiner, a suspect in this case. He was subsequently booked for murder.
A neighbor tells ABC News the Reiners' good friends, comedians Billy Crystal and Larry David, both visited the home after police arrived, saying Crystal looked like he was about to cry.
Trevor Tafahima laying a flower and candle at the gate. He works security at the Reiner home. Tells me their son Nick lived on the property and was obviously troubled.
You could tell he had some problems with drug addiction. If Nick is the suspect, I would never have thought that he would have done this to his parents.
32-year-old Nick Reiner had battled drug addiction since he was a teenager.
In 2016, he and his father worked together on Being Charlie, a film inspired by Nick's own struggles.
Do I smell like weed? No.
The father and son then talked about what it meant for their relationship.
I think the bonding came not from the story itself, but from the fact that we were working on a movie together.
It forced me to have to see more clearly and understand more deeply what Nick had gone through. And I think it forced him to see things that I had experienced during this process.
For 6 decades, Rob Reiner was one of the most beloved figures in Hollywood, first bursting onto the scene as Michael Stivic on the 70s sitcom All in the Family.
Let me tell you something, Mr. Bunker.
No, let me tell you something, Mr. Stivic. You are a meathead.
But it was his work as a director where he helped create some of the most celebrated movies ever. His first film, the cult classic mockumentary This Is Spinal Tap.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Then the coming-of-age story Stand By Me, the fantastical comedy The Princess Bride, the gripping courtroom drama A Few Good Men.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
And the gold standard of romantic comedy, When Harry Met Sally.
Because when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible.
It was on that set where Reiner met his wife Michele, a photographer. Reiner was also an outspoken critic of President Trump. In a jarring post today, the president blamed Reiner's death on his politics, saying he was killed because of the anger he caused others through his mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. And late today, President Trump at the White House doubled down after this horrific family tragedy.
I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all, in any way, shape, or form.
That post drawing immediate outrage, even among some Republicans. Congressman Thomas Massey calling it inappropriate and disrespectful discourse about a man who was just brutally murdered. And tonight, the tributes are pouring in. Reiner's Spinal Tap co-star Harry Shearer saying Reiner had a laugh so uproarious it was audible around the block, saying he was funny, he was smart, he was a mensch. Kevin Bacon worked with Reiner on A Few Good Men. He posted this video.
I'm just sending love to everybody that knew him, because I know that everyone's hurting today.
And former President Barack Obama writing, beneath all of the stories he produced was a deep belief in the goodness of people and a lifelong commitment to putting that belief into action.
Trevor Ault joins us now from Los Angeles. So, Trevor, what comes next in this investigation?
So, Linsey, Nick Reiner is being held on suspicion of murder, so we're expecting murder charges to come forward. But what happens next is that the Los Angeles Police Department and the district attorney are going to finalize the specific charges that he will be facing moving forward in their murders. In the meantime, though, he is being held without bail, Linsey.
And Trevor, I know that you just got some new information about the days leading up to the murder. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so we just got these new details from sources who tell us, Linsey, that Saturday night, the day before Rob Reiner and Michele Reiner were found dead here at their home, they were at a holiday party. And according to sources, Rob Reiner and Nick Reiner got into some kind of fight. I want to make sure I word this specifically. They got into an argument, and they also say that Nick was described as acting strangely. Now, that was Saturday. It's not clear whether the murders happened Saturday night or Sunday during the day. That's something that investigators are still digging into. We likely will learn at a later date, but it could speak to what happened leading up to these two murders here, Linsey.
All right, Trevor Ault for us. Thanks so much, Trevor. A little later in the show, we'll break down Reiner's biggest directorial successes, and our Chris Connolly remembers the joy he brought to so many. In the Northeast tonight, the urgent manhunt is underway for a killer wanted in the deadly mass shooting at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. A person of interest who had been in custody is now cleared and released. Security video shows the possible suspect dressed in all black moments after the shooting. A witness says only his eyes were visible. Providence still on edge tonight. Public schools will be open, but with increased security, many private schools in the area are choosing to close. Whit Johnson reports from Providence tonight. Whit.
Linsey, after a major setback in this investigation, authorities are now releasing the clearest images yet of a person of interest as this Providence community remains on edge.
It was just like something I've never really seen before.
Turn off the lights. Turn off the lights.
One of my friends was gasping and he was like, oh, there's been shots.
I think honestly it felt like a video game site. Students just agonizing in pain. And then ultimately some students unable to breathe.
Do you believe people here should feel safe right now?
I do. I understand why there is deep discomfort. However, we have a very safe community with a lot of law enforcement resources at our disposal right now.
The first reports of an active shooter coming just after 4 p.m. Saturday in the midst of final exams.
2 victims, 1 shot in the back, 1 shot in the shoulder.
Students barricading themselves inside classrooms, hiding underneath desks. Law enforcement going room by room.
Providence Police! Hands up, hands!
Police say the gunman entered the Barris and Holly Engineering Building and opened fire on the first floor. Joseph Aduro was inside a lecture hall leading a study group of about 60 students when he says the shooter walked in, his face almost completely covered, and looked him in the eye.
I saw like something bulging from his chest, so maybe like some type of ammo or bulletproof vest.
Aduro guiding students to take cover behind a desk. Police say the gunman fired more than 40 rounds from a 9mm handgun inside that lecture hall before fleeing the scene. 2 students killed, 9 others injured. Tonight, the urgent manhunt is back on to find a suspect in the deadly mass shooting at Brown University, still at large after more than 48 hours.
We want to see the individual that pulled the trigger on these young kids identified, apprehended, and brought to justice.
Moments ago, police releasing these new surveillance videos showing a person of interest in dark clothing walking in a residential area hours before the shooting Saturday afternoon, seen crossing the street, and this image showing him from the front.
We're asking the public for assistance to be able to identify this individual.
It follows a stunning turn in the investigation. A man previously detained, released overnight. The Rhode Island Attorney General telling ABC News the man was effectively cleared after analyzing the evidence.
Do you have any sense of how many students may have been shot or injured in that classroom?
I think all of them were in my classroom. I texted my parents, oh my goodness, he's in the room. Everyone in my family was responding. They said, you're one of the best things that ever happened to our family.
Among those killed, Muhammad Aziz Umarzakov from Uzbekistan. His family writing on GoFundMe, he was incredibly kind, funny, and smart. Our family is incredibly devastated by this loss. And Ella Cook, a sophomore from Alabama, remembered as a bright light.
Her loss is really, really a big hit for the Brown community. It's going to be a long period of healing and pain going forward to start next semester.
Certainly a painful time. Wida, I know that it's been 2 days at this point since the attack. What are you hearing from officials, and what are you seeing on the ground as the effort to find the shooter continues?
Lindsay, we're really seeing stepped up law enforcement efforts here on the ground. We know there are more than 400 law enforcement officers from different agencies, the FBI, ATF, local law enforcement. We have also seen crime scene investigators with the FBI inside this building behind me where that mass shooting took place. And then as we saw today, authorities releasing those new surveillance images. They're really hoping that the public can study those images, and they're offering a $50,000 reward to anyone with information leading to an arrest and conviction. Lindsay.
Whit Johnson for us. Thanks so much, Whit. And joining us now to discuss the manhunt for the shooter is retired San Bernardino Police Chief Jared Burguan. Thank you so much for joining us. The person of interest detained in connection with the shooting at Brown University, as you know, was released without charges. As a former police chief, what do you make of that when a person of interest is detained and then released?
Well, it's a little concerning. If they believed that he was in fact the suspect, I think they would have done anything and everything possible to ensure that he stayed in custody. It's not a good look if he is in fact the suspect, they let him go and then they rearrest him. I think that's going to be problematic from an optics standpoint. But at the end of the day, it's important that we know the truth and we get to who the real shooter is. And the fact that they wasted time there on that particular individual is a little concerning, where they may have fallen off the trail of who the real suspect could be.
The police have released security footage showing the possible shooter dressed in all black, walking just 1 block away from the building where the shooting took place. What tools would you think that investigators are using to try to apprehend him?
Yeah, that's a very common description. Male in dark clothing doesn't help the public a great deal, but I assure you, somebody's going to recognize him. Somebody knows who he is. Everybody is connected to somebody, and somebody's going to recognize a walk. Somebody's going to recognize some facial features. Somebody's going to recognize something. The authorities are looking for every piece of digital evidence they could possibly find. They're going to comb that neighborhood for every surveillance camera, every ring camera on somebody's front door, every business camera, every flock camera, everything that's available from a digital standpoint to try to get an idea and to get a better identification of who the suspect is. At the end of the day, it's probably going to require some help from the public, though.
And from the footage, do you think it's likely that investigators will be able to tell which direction ultimately that person may have gone?
Well, possibly. If they keep working their way outwards and they continue to find more cameras and they continue to find somebody that's matching this description that they believe is a suspect, they can build a route with the potential that they may eventually see him getting on public transportation, which also has cameras. They may see the person getting in a camera or getting in a car, which then leads to the possibility of getting a plate. It's just a matter of continuing to work outward from where this originated from.
Retired Police Chief Jared Burgwan, we thank you so much for your time and insight. We move on now to the targeted attack on the first night of Hanukkah in Sydney, Australia, when at least 15 people were killed. Authorities now say a father and son carried out the anti-Semitic assault, opening fire on a celebration in Bondi Beach. Dramatic video shows a heroic, unarmed Samaritan, a fruit vendor, tackling one of the gunmen, wrestling away his rifle. The man grabbed the gun, a Muslim father of 2, shot twice, confronting the gunman. We'll hear from a rabbi whose parents helped treat the wounded in a moment. But first, ABC's Britt Clennett reports from Sydney. Hi, Britt.
Hi, Lindsay. While I'm here at Bondi Beach, you can see a growing vigil behind me as more details emerge about that horrific attack here on Sunday.
Tonight, new details on the father and son who authorities say carried out that anti-Semitic massacre at a Hanukkah celebration on Australia's iconic Bondi Beach. At least 15 people killed, dozens more wounded. Dramatic video of a heroic bystander tackling one of the alleged shooters, wrestling that long gun out of his hands, turning it on the suspect. Tonight, law enforcement sources telling ABC News the 2 shooters are 50-year-old father Sajid Akram and his 24-year-old son Naveed. Sources say they pledged allegiance to ISIS and shouted Allahu Akbar while opening fire. Authorities say 2 ISIS flags, weapons and IEDs were recovered near the scene. The attack unfolding Sunday night local time as hundreds gathered to celebrate the first night of Hanukkah.
I just heard a few fireworks going off. That's what it sounded like anyway.
One of the shooters seen ducking while unloading a barrage of bullets. You see a man crouching under the bridge while the shooters were perched. Marcos Carvalho filming as he ran for his life.
I must have heard, 40, 50 shots.
And tonight, that man who wrestled the gun away from one of the shooters, now identified as 43-year-old Ahmed Al-Ahmed, a Syrian-born Muslim father of 2 and local fruit vendor.
I just can't believe he had the courage to run straight in and put his body on the line for so many people. He saved so many people. If it wasn't for him, who knows how long it could have kept on going.
Yeah, especially when someone was firing at him from the bridge still, I think. Just insane.
It's mesmerising.
You'd like to hope that you would react the same way if you had the chance. I don't know if I'm as strong as he is. He was incredibly strong and very brave and managed to take the gun off the guy, which is incredible.
He was shot twice but has survived.
He just was walking there because he was going to have some dinner. And as you've seen what happens there, I know my brother, he's a brave one, He's a good man. He have a good heart, He was trying to defend about the people.
We're also learning more about the victims.
The rabbi, who's a dear, dear friend of mine and was really a pillar of our community, did so much for everybody. For it to actually happen here at our Hanukkah event at Bondi Beach, which every year is just the most beautiful family event with kids running around and You know, it's a celebration, and to think that people were there with heavy weapons, picking off children and the elderly, anger will set in, but at the moment it's more disbelief than anything.
10-year-old Matilda Britvan, seen here in that yellow dress, a dolphin painted on her face just moments before the shooting. She was reportedly killed in front of her 6-year-old sister. Tonight, Matilda remembered as a bright, joyful and spirited child who brought light to everyone around her.
Just so horrific. Britt Clennett joins us now from Sydney. Britt, what more are you learning about that hero bystander?
Hey, Linsey. Yeah, well, just a little earlier, I actually spoke to the brother, as you say, of that brave bystander who we saw wrestling a gun out of the hands of one of the alleged attackers. And he told me he is so proud of him, praising his heroism. As for the suspects, we know that the father was killed and his son was wounded during the attack. But authorities say they don't believe that the two was part of a wider terror cell. Linsey.
Britt Clennett for us. Thanks so much, Britt. We are joined now by Rabbi Dr. Benji Levy, who lived in Sydney and studied there. He's now back in Israel. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Rabbi. First off, you know the tight-knit Jewish community in Sydney well. You were there just last week, and your parents live in the closest house to Bondi Beach in the world. Your sister had to tell her kids that they were playing hide and seek last night, which is absolutely heartbreaking. Talk to us about how they're doing.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. Thank you for having me here. And thank you for the outpouring of support for our community that you and so many around the world have been sharing. It's a very difficult time. I grew up in this community. I was the dean of the largest school, and everyone knows each other. And so everyone genuinely feels a connection to one another and to these places. And then when you have terror striking in such a stark, disgusting, despicable way, like it did yesterday, where it didn't discriminate between a Holocaust survivor and a 10-year-old girl, Matilda, between a rabbi and his congregants, between Jews and non-Jews alike. And as this happened, there was turmoil everywhere. They went on the ground, and my sister told her child, the Chanukiah, the menorah, the candelabra isn't working, so we're going to play hide and seek. Thank God my sister is a clinical psychologist and knew how to keep her children calm and speak in that time. Not everyone did. The trauma is unbearable, and everyone is suffering right now in Sydney, Australia.
Yeah, we can imagine, and beyond as well. And you also knew the rabbi who was tragically killed and was putting on the event. Talk about what the Hanukkah menorah lighting means to Jewish people and why this gathering is so important every year.
Unfortunately, I did know the rabbi. Rabbi Eli was a dear associate rabbi of the Bondi community and really a friend to so many of us. His father-in-law was the head of the rabbinical court there, and everyone is really connected, and everyone is really feeling that pain. And specifically at the festival of Hanukkah, which is all about light, which is all about in a place of darkness, we need to bring light. You know, what's unique about a candle is when I share it with another candle, the flame doesn't diminish, it expands and it grows. This is for all peoples to lean into the importance of life and sharing that love. And therefore to strike us there is such a damaging strike to our humanity at its core. But at the same time, we need to lean into that light, to light more for other people, to do good deeds. That's the message that Rabbi Eli would stand for.
Your thoughts on Ahmed al-Ahmed, who actually wrestled one of the gunmen to the ground?
He's an absolute hero. I spoke to people that visited him today. He's actually still in the hospital as we speak, recovering from his wounds. He is the exact example about how we should be acting. And he even went above and beyond, risking his own life to save the lives of who knows how many. I salute that man, and I say here on public television that we would like to invite him to Israel to thank him on behalf of not just the Jewish people, but on behalf of humanity, because that man is really the example of an upstander, not a bystander that stands on the side and lets the darkness spread, an upstander that gets up and stands really alongside his brethren, his siblings, his friends, his community in Bondi Beach.
As you mentioned, this was intended to be a celebration of Hanukkah, lighting a menorah and spreading that light. What message do you have for Jews around the world who are lighting their Hanukkah menorahs tonight?
I think we can't be defined by the hatred. we need to be defiant of the hatred. We need to realize that we need to have a healthy sense of our own identity, leaning into our unique contribution to the world. And as Jews, we need to put our arms around one another, and we need to put our arms around every single people that stands for humanity. We need to stand up, be there for one another, and really share the light in the deepest way possible.
Rabbi Dr. Benji Levy, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Attorney General Pam Bondi says that the FBI disrupted what she described as a massive terror plot by an anti-government extremist group planning a series of bombings in Southern California. Authorities say the group planned to load backpacks with pipe bombs and detonate them at midnight on New Year's Eve in multiple locations. The 4 suspects, members of the so-called Turtle Island Liberation Front, a violent extremist group, were arrested and each charged with conspiracy and possession of an unregistered destructive device. General Hospital star Anthony Geary has died. Fans knew Geary as the quirky and brash Luke Spencer on the hit ABC daytime drama. His character's on-screen 1981 wedding remains the most watched episode in U.S. soap opera history. Geary, an 8-time Emmy winner, appeared in nearly 2,000 episodes over 4 decades. He reportedly died due to complications from a medical procedure. He was 78 years old. Now to the dangerous cold from the deep south to the northeast tonight. Wind chills in the teens tomorrow from Washington, D.C. to New York to Boston. After 2 weeks of brutal cold, snow and ice, is there any relief in sight? Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z. Ginger, hoping you have some good news for us.
Lindsay, one more chilly morning. We're in the teens now. We'll stay that way here in New York, which is not as big of a deal for us. But look at Mobile, Alabama. 24 the wind chill tomorrow morning. It'll feel like freezing in Tallahassee, Savannah, Georgia, 22. But that's the last morning of that. As things start to warm up, we've actually had daily record high temperatures out in the southwest over the weekend. That's going to bleed to the east. And by Thursday, we could see low to mid 50s from New York to Washington, D.C. So a huge change on the way. And then for Christmas week itself, more than 2/3 of the nation should be above average. So we are finally flipping this pattern that has been kind of cold and entrenched with snow. And we're going to see a very different way to end this year and start 2026. Also want to mention Pacific Northwest had such an inundated week last week with up to a foot of rain, caused those rivers to swell, many of them to major flood stage. We've barely had a break. And now today, and especially tomorrow night, we're ending up with 2 to 4, even some places another half foot of rain. Some of the higher elevations, because this one has some more cold air with it, could see 2 to 4 feet of snow. Lindsay?
Snow, more snow in the forecast. All right, Ginger, thank you. Still ahead, the legacy of Rob Reiner. We'll take a closer look at his career, and our Chris Connolly joins us with his personal reaction to the loss of a giant. Plus, flight path problems. A passenger plane narrowly misses a mid-air collision. Find out what the pilot had to say about what went wrong.
Narrow-minded, selfish, bigoted fathead! This is Michael Stivick's Independence Day, pal! And this here is my flag!
Rob Reiner helped shape 4+ decades of filmmaking, both behind the camera and in front. Let's take a look at the esteemed director's legacy by the numbers. Reiner began his career as Michael Meathead Stivick, the stay-at-home son-in-law of Archie Bunker for All in the Family. He starred in nearly 200 episodes of the sitcom from 1971 to 1978. 6 years after that, Reiner went on to star in and write his directorial debut, the mockumentary classic This Is Spinal Tap, one of his 3 films selected for preservation by the National Film Registry. The other 2, of course, The Princess Bride and When Harry Met Sally. The director's films received commercial as well as critical success. Films directed by Reiner grossed almost $1 billion at the box office. And come award season, Reiner's movies reeled in nominations from multiple film bodies. His films earned 11 Academy Award nominations over the years, winning 1 in 1990 for Kathy Bates' performance in Misery. At the Golden Globes, Reiner's films earned 19 nominations, including 4 for his directing. But being behind the camera did not stop Reiner from practicing his acting chops. He starred in 31 movies over his career, notably as Jay in Sleepless in Seattle and literary agent Joel in Throw Mama from the Train, with longtime collaborators Nora Ephron and Billy Crystal, respectively. Reiner's movies are considered impactful to both cinematic history and American cultural history. He helped define a generation of creatives, activists, and and filmmakers. The family of the late screenwriter and producer Norman Lear said that Reiner, quote, spent every breath trying to make this country a better place. And joining us now from our Los Angeles bureau is Chris Connolly. Chris, of course, you know, many a Hollywood icon. Reiner always appeared quite affable. Actor Kiefer Sutherland wrote on Instagram today, Rob was one of the kindest gentlemen I've ever had the pleasure of working with. How much would you say that Reiner stood out within a Hollywood that's often broad-stroked as each man for himself?
It did seem like everyone loved Rob Reiner out here in Hollywood. If you go to social media today, you'll see picture after picture, story after story of people posing with Rob Reiner, describing some encounter they had or a time they worked together. He was generous, he was kind, he was open, and he was always interested in dialogue. Now, to say he was affable is not to say he was go along, get along all the time, especially with regard to creative things. You don't become that successful director that Rob Reiner became without having a strong point of view. And he expressed that point of view to actors and writers. He'd give line readings to actors like Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson. So he knew what he wanted, and he got what he wanted. And that's why those movies are so impactful, and it's part of the reason why we remember him so fondly today.
And as you say, they're so impactful, whether they were dramas or comedies or rom-coms. As you see it, what was the secret sauce or the key to many of his movies becoming box office blockbusters?
Yeah, he went on a 10-year heater there that it's almost unparalleled in terms of being a director, where it seemed like every movie he made was not only outstanding, but was kind of the peak of its genre. Has there been a better rom-com than When Harry Met Sally, a more compelling courtroom thriller than something like A Few Good Men, a coming-of-age movie to match Stand By Me? It's just remarkable what he was able to do with the genres that he worked in. He just really hit the sweet spot. Great actors, great material, and a way to get the best out of people, I think, was his secret sauce.
Activism in Hollywood is nothing new, but what do you think was different about Reiner's activism?
Well, I think he put his money where his mouth was, and he was committed on many levels to making the kind of change that you've already heard people talk about. He was involved in so many different causes, left of center, in terms of supporting propositions, legislative efforts, legal efforts. I think the thing that stands out in a lot of people's minds as they imagine what his influence was, he reunited on the same side Theodore Olson and David Boies, the two attorneys who faced off against each other at the Supreme Court for Bush versus Gore, got them on the same side to represent the efforts to overturn the anti-same-sex marriage Proposition 8. So just that he could make that happen gives you a sense of the sway of influence that he held in the political sphere here.
Chris Connolly, always great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, the very last pennies struck by the U.S. Mint were just sold at auction. We'll tell you how many millions they went for, and you won't want to miss Merriam-Webster's word of the year that so succinctly describes many of the videos we see on social media. Welcome back to Prime. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. Legendary director Rob Reiner and his wife were both found dead in their L.A. home from stab wounds. Their son, Nick Reiner, was arrested on the suspicion of murder and remains in custody without bail. The case will be presented to the DA tomorrow for charges. 2 victims have been named in the Brown University shooting: Ella Cook, a Brown student and a parishioner in Birmingham, Alabama, and Mohammed Aziz Umar Kozov, a student from Uzbekistan. Police also released new images of a person of interest asking the public for assistance in identifying the shooter. At least 15 are dead and more than 40 injured in a terrorist attack in Australia after a father and son targeted a gathering of more than 1,000 Jewish people who were celebrating the first night of Hanukkah on Bondi Beach. Authorities recovered 2 ISIS flags, additional weapons, ammunition, and IEDs from the scene. And an investigation into a frightening mid-air close call between a JetBlue flight and a U.S. Air Force plane is ongoing tonight. A JetBlue pilot told air traffic controllers a military flight entered directly into his flight path on Friday. This happened moments after the New York-bound plane took off from Curacao off the coast of Venezuela. Coming up, changes for the vacuum that reinvented how many Americans clean, what customers need to know about the iRobots that do chores while you're away, and we're taking you to Paris. All access to the new Avatar movie is up next at the film's European premiere. Find out what you can expect before it hits U.S. theaters. Welcome back, everyone. It is the third installment of a blockbuster franchise, Avatar. Fire and Ash roars into theaters December 19th, and an entirely new chapter unfolds, fueled by grief, found family, and the fight for what's right. We had the opportunity to travel to Paris for the movie's European premiere, and we sat down with the mastermind behind Avatar, director James Cameron, and stars Zoe Saldana, Sam Worthington, Sigourney Weaver, Una Chaplin, and Stephen Lang. We had a wide-ranging discussion, including how real-life issues are woven into the film's story. Take a look.
This is the only pure thing in this world.
It's an exhilarating, action-packed, cinematic spectacle with what's been called Titanic heartbreak.
No, Spider.
Already nominated for 2 Golden Globe Awards.
We must fight!
It's the latest visual marvel from Academy Award-winning director James Cameron. The third installment of the blockbuster franchise.
I'll kill you! I swear!
Avatar. Fire and Ash. We got a chance to sit down with some of the cast ahead of the glitz and glamour of the global premiere under these Parisian lights. Let me begin with you, Mr. Cameron. In a society that increasingly is described as having a short attention span, how do you still manage to create 3 hours and 15 minutes? You grab us, you pull us in, and never let us go.
Well, I think the answer is in the question, right? So when we have all this stuff coming at us all day long, and when we're scrolling and multitasking and doing all of these things, we actually long for a moment of focus. And that's what the theater can give us.
In Sigourney, Stephen, Sam, Zoe, you guys have all been working together with Jim now for, 18 years at this point. But was there something in this latest installment that you still found newly inspiring?
Absolutely. I mean, the man is an incredible writer, and I like reading his scripts more than anybody's. First of all, you're reading it and you're going, well, how's he going to do that? How's he going to do that? But the truth is that they're so rich with such important themes and you know, like how to process grief and a mixed race family. How is that going to work? We don't shy away from real life while we're giving you the fantasy of your dreams.
For longtime fans, it gives you so much of what you expect to see, the ferocity of Neytiri, the stalwart bravery of Jake Sully. But this one also delivers in new and surprising ways, because each of the characters is just deeper, richer. Their problems are much more manifold than they were before. And so I think it delivers on both levels. It gives you, it fulfills your expectations, but also gives something new to audiences, which will create new expectations.
Certainly grief is a major theme. When we start off, Sam, we're meeting Jake again, coming to grips with the loss of his oldest son. Do you feel that we find Jake now more vulnerable, more hardened, or something else entirely?
I think Jake gets betrayed by the code that he grew up with, which was this military code. That's his default that he goes back to in this. And he kind of loses all the Na'vi ways that we've built up over the last 2 movies. And I think the problem with that is that then tests this marriage that Jim has been exploring. You know, the first movie is about a young guy falling in love. Natural progression is they have a family. You know, now we're really testing what this marriage can survive in these circumstances.
Una, you're new to the group here. What drew you to this character, Varang, who has been described as beautifully unhinged?
My people cried for help. But Ava did not come.
What drew you to this really captivating, intoxicating, dangerous, and deadly person?
James Cameron.
And the world of Avatar, I mean, I watched the first film without ever thinking that I would ever get to meet any of these guys, And so for me to jump in, I mean, it was a dream come true. But then above and beyond that, to then get given the incredible gift of a complex and multi-layered person that had so much history, and then to try and fill that history in every moment, that was a big responsibility.
There are so many mirror images to the environments that we see playing out on Pandora to real life issues. How intentional are those parallels?
Jim travels us light years into this beautiful planet and shows us what we are doing to ours.
Yeah.
It's important to see sometimes what truly takes place and to do it in a way that is safe through storytelling.
It's safe.
That makes you want to come home and sort of go, oh boy, am I doing enough? Am I saying enough? Or am I doing too much and saying too much?
There's no such thing as too much.
No such thing, exactly.
Don't miss our latest All Access featuring the cast of Avatar Fire and Ash, streaming now on Disney Plus and Hulu. And still ahead, singer Lizzo is breaking her silence about an accusation she says has haunted her, why she's claiming a legal victory, though the fight may be far from over. Plus, a devastating loss. Chiefs fans are still reeling over the injury that took Patrick Mahomes out in the final minutes of the game. What's next for the future of the star player? Roomba files for bankruptcy. The penny's now worth millions, and Merriam-Webster is out with its word of the year. These stories and more in tonight's rundown. The maker of iRobot vacuums has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Roomba announced that they are being acquired by their primary China-based contractor through a court-ordered process. The company said their operations will continue as normal throughout the process, and they do not expect any disruptions to their existing products or customer support. Parts of a lawsuit brought by former backup dancers of pop singer Lizzo were dropped in court. 3 dancers hired by Lizzo filed a lawsuit alleging the singer fat-shamed them. In a statement on social media, Lizzo maintained they were fired for taking a behind-the-scenes recording of her without proper consent. Litigation surrounding other claims of workplace harassment remains ongoing. The New York State Gaming Commission finalized the approval for all 3 full-scale casino sites in Queens and the Bronx. The approved licenses include Bally's proposed casino in the Bronx on a golf course formerly owned by President Donald Trump, Hard Rock's pitch to open a complex next to Citi Field in Queens, and Resort World's attempt to expand their facility at the Aqueduct Racetrack near JFK Airport. New York Governor Kathy Hochul says the casinos will bring jobs and help fund the MTA. The process of bringing casinos in the city started all the way back in 2013. Someone could learn tonight if they're going to be $1.1 billion richer. The drawing in the massive 10-figure Powerball jackpot is tonight. There have only been 13 lottery jackpots in the U.S. history over $1 billion, 10 of them since 2021. The last pennies ever produced in the United States are fetching millions at auction. The very last pennies struck by the U.S. Mint were sold for more than $16 million at a rare coin auction. Hundreds of different pennies were auctioned off in sets, including a historic 2025 penny struck in 24-karat gold, minted in Philadelphia, which bears a small mark of the final Greek letter omega. Merriam-Webster announced its 2025 word of the year, slop. Once used to define the soft texture of mud, the word has taken on a different meaning since the advent of artificially created content. Merriam-Webster now includes a definition of the word slop to mean digital content of low quality that is produced usually in quantity by means of artificial intelligence. The dictionary's editors sift through data each year to determine which words increased in usage to decide which word best reflects the past year. For our weekly look into the sports world, it is time for Hanging with Herm with Coach Herm Edwards. Coach, thanks so much for being here. It is a heavy news day, and so nice to kind of have some sports to talk about. Let's start with the devastating nightmare of a loss that the Chiefs sustained yesterday, losing to the Chargers, getting knocked out of the playoffs, and losing Patrick Mahomes to an ACL injury. This is going to be the first playoffs in 27 years without Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, or Patrick Mahomes. What went wrong for the season for the Chiefs this season?
Well, they started off slow, and I think injuries caught up to them early. And I said this earlier on television. This is a tired team. When you think about all the playoff appearances this Kansas City Chiefs team has made, you know, they play a 20-game schedule every year when you go to the playoffs and Super Bowl. So they were fatigued. It caught up to them. You hate to see the injury to Patrick Mahomes, but their season's done as far as the playoffs. To all those fans out there, Patrick Mahomes will recover. And we can remember, Tom Brady had this injury. Adrian Peterson had this injury as well. So they recovered from it, and he will as well.
So you're optimistic. You think that he's going to come back better than ever? This is not the end of the Chiefs dynasty as we know it?
Well, I don't know about the dynasty. I don't know if they make that run anymore. They've kind of come to the pack. I mean, they've got to find some offensive linemen. They got to do some things to fix it. But it's a more competitive league when you think about it. There's really no dominant team right now, especially this season.
Yesterday was a special day to see some NFL old-timers come out of retirement and shine. 44-year-old grandfather Philip Rivers nearly delivered a heroic effort for the Colts, playing in his first game since 2021. How impressive is it to go from sitting on your couch to almost beating the Seattle Seahawks and the league's best defense?
Very impressive, and I think the way they used him really helped. I mean, they ran the ball. They threw quick passes so he didn't get hit a lot. And I thought he played well. He played good enough and kept these guys in the game. He didn't turn the ball over except for the last play of the game when he was trying to throw the ball down the middle. You can tell he's lost some of the zip on the ball. It'll be interesting now this week. You know who they play this week?
Who do they play this week? Okay.
They play San Francisco. So all of a sudden, the game gets a little bit tougher when you play a defense like the 49ers have.
A defensive end, Brandon Graham, came out of retirement a few weeks back and has 2 sacks in a get-right 31-0 win for the Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly, against the Las Vegas Raiders. Talk to us about the NFC playoff picture and who you think is the team to beat in the NFC.
Well, the NFC, as much as I like my Eagles and we love them, the 2 teams right now for me are the Rams. And listen to this now, the Rams and the 49ers. Quietly, the 49ers keep winning games. They're in the NFC West with Seattle sitting there and the Rams. But the 49ers are a team you better watch out. They have a lot of playoff experience. They've gotten through the season with a lot of injuries early. Now they're healthy. They're starting to make their run.
All right, we'll be watching on that. And how about on the AFC side?
Well, real simple. There's 2 teams over there. We watched one of them beat the New England Patriots, and that's the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, can't say enough about him. Josh Allen took his cape off in New England, and he became Superman. He is a tremendous player, and obviously the other team I like over on that side of it is the Denver Broncos. They play a very good style of football, don't limit points. They got a really good defense and a young quarterback that's getting better every week.
Coach Herm, always appreciate you joining us every week. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And that is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us.